Welcome back to American Nostalgia Garage. As you can see behind me, I have the Hunchback of Notre Dame. We got the big hunchback here and the wonky eye right there to prove it. Anyway, as you can see, this thing needs some work. It's pretty ugly. And do I dare make a second reference to nursery rhymes and Disney movies? It's an ugly duckling. And if there was an eighth dwarf, this would be ugly. And one last insult, it's gross. So if you didn't already notice, this thing's built for fun. This right here is my baby. I've actually had it longer than any other car that I have on the property here, and any of the other cars that you've seen in any of the videos on the channel. Anyway, I would really like to give this thing the treatment that certain other vehicles have gotten. And I'd like to give it a new paint job. We have some stuff to do. I don't know if you can tell. There are some small minor imperfections. You can't really tell. You have to look real close. But I don't know if you have a trained eye, you can see some of the imperfections there. In this video, it's getting some body work and a new paint job. So strap in, because I'm going to show you exactly how to not paint a car. First thing we've got to do is get some of this off. Now, if you had a hot rod, let's call it 5 to 10 years ago, and you didn't have the money to paint it, what did you do? You wrapped it in a sprayable rubber glove, pretty much, which is what this nonsensical Plasti-Dip stuff is. And the beauty of this stuff is that you could just spray something on there and make it look halfway decent in a hurry. If you had a car show to go to tonight, you could spray this garbage on there and you could be at the show tonight. Unfortunately, this has been on the car now for at least 10 years, and it really needs to come off because we cannot paint over it. So first thing we got to do is get the old Plasti-Dip off, maybe strip back. This is the original paint color, this green. I don't know what color it is, but I like it. But it is not going to be painted that color again. I'll show you the paint when we get to that portion. But we got to get all this old Plasti-Dip off, so let's get started there. If you saw me picking at this with my fingernail, this is very good for fidgety fingers because it'll keep you busy all day. Unfortunately, if you have any experience with this, you know how annoying this can be to get off. And rubbing my car for 37 hours with my finger isn't really something I want to do. So in the spots that we can get to, larger surfaces and things that are like have different crevices, we're going to probably use a couple different methods of getting this stuff off. I'm going to actually chemically strip most of this car, and the spots that we really can't get into or need extra work, I'll use an abrasive and a disc or something like that. But the whole car is basically going to be this going back and forth between probably chemical stripping and abrasive discs. Alright, I got the hood popped off of this thing. Might as well give you a look at what we got here. This is my small block Chevy 414 with a S491 turbo on it. It's got fast fuel injection, but not for long, because I really actually kind of hate it. It'll get a Dominator soon. But this thing makes about 1,100 horse. It was like 1057 or something on a dyno on a very conservative tune. So, needless to say, it is as much hell as you can fit in a 5-gallon bucket. So now we're going to strip the car. We're going to strip the car. What were you thinking? Gross. We're not going to wash any of the dirt off. We're just going to... It's good now. We're going to throw some of this orange soda on most of the exposed areas without going completely nuts and getting crazy intricate with details right now. I sort of just want to see how well this does. There are areas back here where there's been some metal work. I had to stretch these wheel tubs. Did that before I had a YouTube channel, so you won't obviously get to see how I did it, but I did section out a spot in the middle and widen these wheel tubs just to fit the big wheels and maintain the wheel tub shape itself without making it look like a giant half moon. But I don't want to get into down here. There's really no filler and stuff like that. But I don't want to get into the new primer, so I'm going to kind of stop around there, whatever. There's no science to this, and I have no idea what I'm doing, so maybe just don't follow what I'm talking about. Just watch this for entertainment value. They say to put this stuff on with a paintbrush, so I went and got my finest paintbrush right off the top of the pile. This one seemed to have less metal shavings in it than some of the others, so we'll use this. Also, they say to kind of put this in an inconspicuous place just to test it, so we'll start with the very top of the roof, right where your eyes are. I don't know how far this is going to go. Hopefully we'll be able to get the whole car done. Okay, it's going pretty quick, especially with a rag. Alright, chime in if you've done this before. I got it kind of, I guess, glossy, a little bit wet. It's trying not to use too much of it all in one spot. I'm going to see how far this stuff goes and how much of it you really kind of need to use. Like, see, it's kind of like dry here, but more wet here. I'm going to throw a piece of plastic over this to kind of harness the energy, you know? Just try to get it to work. Cook on there, you know? So I'll throw a piece of plastic on that. I'll start moving on to some of the other parts of the car, and I'll come back to that and see how it works. May need to add or do several different passes on this to get it to go, but let's just see how it happens. Alright, after dragging this entire sheet on the floor, I got kind of on the roof, you know. Seems to be sticking a little bit. I'll come back and pull it back and see if it's coming off in maybe 30 minutes, or I don't know. So I mostly have the other side basically coated in this ectoplasm from Slimer, the ghost. So there are some spots that it is coming off. It appears that it's got to be kind of put on pretty thick, you know. But there are some spots in the back, I'll show you in a minute, that are coming off, and then there are some spots where the original paint is that are a little more stubborn. Alright, I got the top of the car pretty much done, quarters, doors. Didn't do the fenders yet, but all that stuff's pretty much coated. I recoated the roof because it didn't look like it was doing anything at the top, and I have very little patience. So it does look like it's starting to flake here. It's looking like it's starting to come up here, so I'm going to let this thing bake for a little while. I'll come back and check it in a little bit. So we left this overnight, and most of it is kind of coming right off like that. But we do have areas, this is pretty good. We do have areas that like kind of seem sort of unfazed, like this doesn't really want to come off. But then up here, it's like almost like a rubber glove. I can just kind of pull it off. So I'm going to spend some time removing what I can here, and we might have to go with another coat and some more time just sitting. It appears that overnight our stripper didn't do everything we wanted it to, so we won't be tipping it.
That won't be necessary, sir. I still have some tip left over.
Is anyone laughing at that joke? I hope. But anyway, I'm going to have to hit this with surface conditioner. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, that's it. Just a drum with an abrasive woven drum thing, whatever, on basically like an angle grinder turned sideways. And I did a lot of that last night on this side, and it looks pretty good. Now I'm purposely not taking off this. I'll get into that, you know, without the drum sander, because I don't need as much abrasive. I actually painted this and fillered that, so I really don't want to take most of that off. I just want to get this old stuff off. In the process of trying to keep this video under 3 hours though, I'm just going to hit this thing with the surface conditioner, because I'm going to be spending several hours probably with the surface conditioner trying to get the rest of the stuff off here. So rather than have a video that's as long as a Harry Potter movie, I'm just going to do it. I'll get back with you when I have some stuff to show you. Why do I look like the Hulk with a belly and no muscles? Well, this car was green, and I'm trying to get back as much of the old stuff and the plastic dip as possible. I'll tell you this, I'm never painting anything with plastic dip again. This is a pain in the butt. trying to get this off. It has been on there almost 12 years, but I'm never doing that again. Look at me. Anyway, we got most of the stuff back. I'm choosing to probably not go much further than this. You know, still got little areas left that need to be done, but I'm choosing to not really go a whole lot further than this. See, there are still spots where there's like little paint and filler. I'm probably not going to go that much further, only because the time and energy it takes to get all these little pieces off, and the fact that they are so stuck on there, they're probably not going to come off. No, they probably will come off. But nonetheless, I like to learn things the hard way, so I'm going to see if that's going to work. Yeah, what's the worst that could happen? I'll just have to paint the whole car again, right? Seems like the way to go. Alright, this is the kind of stuff you deal with when you're working on old cars. Pulled back the windshield chrome molding here, and I found some rust in here. It's nothing crazy, but it does need to be knocked back a little bit. So I'm going to put some rust converter. It's really no holes, but I'm going to knock it back with this wire brush in the channel, and then I'm going to use some rust converter just to hopefully stop that from progressing. We got to get this whole car sealed with some self-etching primer. That way I could throw some filler on it, block it down, then get it primed with some high build. That way we can throw some color on it. That ain't all happening today, but I will say, time to come clean. You guys may be wondering how all this work gets done at this garage. Yeah, because we're super productive here. What's up, dudes? I'm Chad. I got a super cool artisanal mustache, and I like to wear my hat backwards all the time, even though this is the part that's supposed to block the sun. Also, I'm wearing landscaper goggles because it's cool. Anyway, let's show you where I'm at on this project. We already painted it blue. It's not that one, Chad. Oh. Can never get good help around here. I'm gonna have to fire him. All right, enough joking around. Let's get this thing painted so I can have a blue car. Well, let me give you an update. I did a really cool thing last night, forgot to tell you. I backed into the garage door. Right there, into that 2x4. And I put this little cool whoop-de-doo in. And since I'm not very good with a body hammer and don't really know what to do, I'm going to try and pull it out. I drilled a hole in the center of the dent, where like the most tension seems to be, I think, and the deepest part of the hole. Now I'm going to run this like coarse screw in. So I'm going to pull on it, and then I'm going to give it a nice couple of spots. It did pull it out. It also mushroomed it, so that's pretty cool. Now I'll give the center of it a couple of... Alright, another new day. Let me show you. Yeah, there's 57 holes in the car. And yeah, it looks like I just shot it 57 times with a 22 caliber. That's not what happened. I just kept running the screw in and pulling it out, and this is pretty good compared to my ability to do body work. I'm pretty proud of myself there. Just got to weld in all those little holes. And believe it or not, having looked at this thing after it's like all kind of dry, the panels are way less wavy than I thought they were going to be. What I will say is the roof is going to take a skim coat, some glazing putty, just to do a quick skim coat, make sure it's just flat before we lay down our high build, and that'll give us a little extra room to get into just flattening everything out. But I can't believe how flat the doors and the quarters are. I'm really happy with all this. It's going to end up being a lot less body work when we start getting into sanding, which is good because I was going to skip most of that anyway. So we've got a pretty good canvas to work back here. Let me get into mixing up some filler. We'll do the roof of the car, and then I got to go get some guide coat so we can lay down some high build and get to sanding, which I'm not looking forward to at all. Not even a little bit. Almost forgot to mention, this is the one rust spot that this entire car has, and I'm just going to run a welder over that and then just hit it with a flap disc and just get it nice and welded up. I'd rather weld all day than to do any sanding. How about you guys? All right, well, we got our glazing putty. It's from Eastwood. I'm not plugging Eastwood at all, but I do like their stuff because I've used it before and it worked out well. So, got the hardener. At least it's not Bondo, right? Like, you know, the stuff you get at the auto parts store, that stuff's awful. And I'm not plugging Harbor Freight either, but this was like $11.99. I mean, and I'll probably still ruin it, but this is much better than the little plastic ones. Also have the throwaway sheet ones, which are pretty good too. But let's mix some of this stuff up and then we'll sling it on this car. All right, I'm not really trying to remove anything here. I'm just giving my filler something to bite into here. If you watch me do previous painting stuff, it's supposed to be like kind of an X pattern. I know you don't come here for your painting advice. You come here to laugh. At my painting, that is. Ultra thin right now. That's the goal here. Seems I didn't mix up enough. On a contoured area like this, you kind of want to go down or up, because if you go like this, the scraper itself, I don't know if you can see that, it rocks. So you'll kind of dig like a wedge in it. So it's kind of like up or down with the contour itself. All right, well, we tried working that out. I did the best I could on this. Wasn't good enough, so we actually ended up making a little patch panel. I cut it out, I traced what I needed, put a little bend in it. Now we've got to put it in here. Alright, well, here's what we got. It ain't great, but it's better than it was. At least it's metal now. Got it welded into where the tail light is. Had to add a little triangular piece because it was just melting back. Thank God we have a gallon of filler, though. Make this look nice. Getting ready to put some high build polyester primer surfacer on this thing. And this has been sitting in my house for months, and it was all like solidified at the bottom. Not hard, but it was all settled at the bottom, I should say. They're saying with this new formulation with Eastwood, its required amount of hardener is now 2%, formerly 5%. I'm not weighing any of this, so we're just going to kind of eyeball it here. The cup on the gun, I think, only holds 20 ounces. So we'll just try to make sure that our concoction comes out to be about 20 ounces. A little bit less so we have some room in the cup. They say the pot life on this stuff is 30 minutes. So what you don't want to do, and I've seen it done before, is take this whole thing, put it in this whole thing, and then pour in what you need. That gives you 30 minutes to do the whole car then with this gallon. And then the gallon's gone. So you don't want to do it that way. Alright, welcome back to day 700 of this paint job. And no, this is not Interstellar, if you get the reference. And Matthew McConaughey won't answer my phone calls about being an extra on my YouTube channel, so I don't know what that's all about. But anyway, I started sanding a little bit, and I was planning on getting you guys in here to see what we're doing. I had to move it from over there because I was baking in the sun, so I moved it over here to the shade. And now what I'm going to do is try to get this thing as straight as I can and as flat as I can. Remember, it's a race car, it doesn't have to be perfect, and you guys know me, so perfect doesn't exist. Alright, so here's the move. Got some guide coat, and the roof has cooled off substantially versus being over there in the Easy Bake oven. And I've stopped dripping sweat out of my eyeballs, so we can actually proceed. Can of guide coat, what this basically is like a shadow, sort of. So what you do is throw the cap on the floor, make a mess of your house. What you do is you take this, you spray it on the roof, or whatever panel you're sanding, and then you go back and you sand against it, and it's going to show you all the high and low spots. When you start sanding, the low spots the paint won't be removed because it's not reaching down into that crevice. And the high spots, you'll be able to take this guide coat right off. The idea is sand all the high spots down to the low spots. If it's really low, then you just need to add some filler or another coat of primer or whatever, and you go from there. So they do sell this in like a dry version, which is like a powder. This is not the version I have. It doesn't really matter how you put this on, I don't think. Or I don't really know. You just got to get it on enough so that you can see it. The roof is actually, I think, of my most concern because I think the rest of the panels are pretty straight. I think. Seems like too much. Fine. Now I'm using 100 grit to sand this because I do feel like I have quite a bit of material to remove because I'm really good at this. But I also don't have 180 or 120, which is what I probably would have used, and I think 320 would be not as aggressive as what I need right now. I just want to knock it down. Once I get close, then I'll go down a grit to like 320 or whatever it is that I have. I'm going in like an X pattern because I think somebody else said it's a good idea. You know, the guys that know what they're doing. Now, I'm on the fence about showing this to you, but this is a full disclosure YouTube channel, and you guys know I make lots of mistakes, and I don't mind showing you. But you can see this is like a low spot where that guide coat didn't come up, and then like right here where it's pretty much just white primer or gray primer, that's a high spot. So basically I want to sand, say, this spot down to that spot so that it's nice and flat. Now you can tell by the way that this looks camouflage, or like tiger stripes, or like name anything with a pattern, that I have a lot of work to do. So I'm going to put you guys down, I'm going to get to work, and hopefully you guys are kind to me in the comments about how bad my roof is, and about how bad my body workmanship is, if that's even a word. Alright, let me get to work. Alright, boys and girls, here's a look at what you can do in 17 short hours of manual labor. I put my second coat of guide coat on, and I'm going to show you, I've moved down to 320, I'm going to show you what, you know, it looks like when you get it nice and flat. Now I'm just going to blow the dust off. It's going to look like a scene from Scarface in here for a second. Now we still have a long way to go, but you can see how much more flat that is. You see, just from that short section of sanding, I didn't really get over here, I got more to do, but you can see where that guide coat was really apparent before. Look at how much less it is. So you just do this a couple of times and it just gets better each time. Now again, I still have work to do, but I mean, it's an improvement. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect, at least not for us. All right, you're gonna get the fastest update you've ever gotten. We built a tent and the car is inside. We blew it off, we cleaned it. We're going to send a tack rag over the top of it just to get all the little crumbs and stuff that's stuck on it off. And then this is our paint. And that's Eastwood's, I think it's called Burnout Blue. I'm going to throw in some flake. And this is the moment we've all been waiting for. We're going to paint this thing. Alright. We're reenacting an episode of Dexter to get some blue paint on this thing. I've got it in our 200-year-old gun. I've got it regulated here with a dryer. My son's yelling because right now is a good time to talk while I have a pot light. Got to deal with what you can. I bought this from a store that everything is 99 cents. Also, this has been sitting in my garage for 200 years. And it was skipping. It just, I don't know if you saw it there, it would just not spray. And I wasn't intending on making stripes and going all over the place, but kind of have to roll with the punches here because this thing really doesn't want to work with me right now. So, let me get some of this paint laid down and hopefully I'll have something nice to show you guys when I'm done. Let's do a quick Rorschach test here. What do you see here? Well, you probably see a mostly painted vehicle. There's no fenders here. They're out there and they're not in paint. So basically we have a Quentin Tarantino movie. So we're at the ending already. We're starting at the ending and then we've got to go back to the beginning and do metal work. If you're wondering why it was done like that, it was done like that because we were trying to beat the weather the day that we were painting this thing. I don't need a booth in order to paint booth. Really giving myself some credit there. But I don't need a paint booth in order to paint fenders and the trunk and hood and stuff like that, smaller items, but I did for the whole car. So basically what I did is I painted what needed to be painted for the booth the day that I had that set up as quickly as possible to beat the weather and the rain and all the wind and stuff. Got that painted. And rather than worry about getting that stuff in color and in clear, and now we've got to go back in time and I've got to fill this hole, and I don't know if you can see it, there's another hole right there. So yeah, this car has had 3 different turbo setups, this being the final version kind of, and before that I had a turbo sitting, you know, right in the middle sort of, and it had one exhaust exit, and then we had a turbo, we moved it out a little bit, it had another exit. And so we ended up with these 2 holes. They both need to be filled. We are going to have a fender exit. It's going to be on the driver's side now, on the lower portion. And if you look, it's a lot more simple. It comes right out of the turbo and goes right out. So we do need to open that one up a little bit and fill these 2, and then we're in business. We can get these things painted. Also, we've got our hood here, which is a Sunoco bubble hood. It is about 7,000 square feet. I don't know if we're going to have enough paint to cover both fenders. I have to cover the trunk on the car and this hood. If it comes down to not having enough, this will be the last thing to get painted because I'm okay with the hood being a different color, but I don't want the fenders and the trunk on the back of the car to be a different color. So, all right, here's a look at what we're doing. Got a piece of steel cut out. I got lines to match it up, a square where it goes. It's about 6 by 6. Need to just cover that hole. The reason I have the lines is to orient the piece so I don't end up trying to go back like this or like this. And what I've got to do, I put a little bend in it, you could probably see. Try to contour to this fender. We're going to use only the best hand tools in order to contour this thing. Alright, here's what we're looking for. Got kind of pretty good gap along the top. This side's a little bit, it's got a little bit of a hangover, but you know, when I push the metal, it'll go. So now we've got to cut this out and get it fitted. All right, I got my panel self-tapered on there. Now, you watch this channel, then you might be thinking I'm leaving it like that. And honestly, I'm not above it. But actually, I have it attached to the panel. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut both pieces together, so that way the cuts are uniform, and that this piece should just fit right in place once I cut the hole out. Alright, so here's what you get. Yes, I got a little bit crazy with the cut there. I got to fill that in when I cut the bottom edge. Kind of wanted to stay away from this little roll here, but I should have just stuck with it anyway. Little gap is a little bit big here because the width of the blade itself cut in there, but I cut in an angle on here and here and here, so should be able to get a nice fit. For somebody who's not an expert metal worker, I'll take this. It's good enough. I got holes for the self tappers to fill in. Let's get to welding and let's get this thing done. Hey, we got our clothesline full of car parts. Well, like I said, we're kind of going backwards here because now we've got to go back and paint some of the car that wasn't painted before. We probably wouldn't have done it this way, but I had a couple of employees quit. Maybe you know them. For some reason, yeah, Chip Foose and Dave Kindig just walked right out. You know, they said something about budgeting. Well, can't please everybody, so let's get to work. Who do I look like right now? All right, if my calculations are correct, we should have enough paint to paint both of our fenders, our trunk, and our hood. Except that I didn't do any calculations, so I have no idea what's going to happen. I don't know how good of an idea it is to spray paint against the back of something else that I'm going to paint. That probably has dirt all over it. But I guess we're already doing it. Very light on paint, and I still have a hood and a trunk to paint. Let's see. All right, we got one coat on the fender and on the other side of this trunk. Haven't even touched this yet, and I don't know if I'm gonna have enough paint. I think I probably have like 1 cup left. Let's see. Oof. Maybe a little bit more. So now the question becomes, do I dare paint the hood, or do I put a second coat on what I've already got painted so far? I think I'm going to second coat what I've got painted so far, and if I have something left in this can, I'll start the hood and then finish the hood with what I got in the can. I guess. I don't really know. Probably end up regretting this, but I have a little bit left in here. I have some left in the can, so we're going to give this thing a shot. The number one thing to do with metallics is change the pattern 100 times and then drip your sweat in the paint right there. So yeah, you just want to change patterns randomly, you know, so that the paint never knows what you're doing. Believe it or not, I actually had a full cup left in that can. Only after I used way too much activator just to, you know, fill up my cup. But still, I mean, this cup is full. I don't know what's in it, but we're gonna put whatever it is on the car. All right, let's get some clear on this thing. All right, we got our hood, both fenders, and our trunk done, and it looks lots of little waves in there, but you know, color just shows everything. This is a race car, so it doesn't really matter, but it wet out pretty good. So we are going to have some wet sanding to do, but the color out in the sun looks pretty good. I gotta say, when I painted the car itself, I wasn't really in love with the color, but if the whole thing in the sun looks like this blue, obviously it needs a wet sand everywhere, but if the whole car looks like this color in the sun, I'll be happy with it. This is a cool color. I was kind of looking for a little bit of a lighter blue, but this will do. So anyway, this is like a week later now, because I had a whole bunch of stuff to do. But yeah, whole car is painted. At this distance you probably can't tell, but this is a blue orange. If that makes any sense to you, I'll clue you in. There's your orange. But it is covered in a nice color blue. Look at the flake in the paint. The flake in the paint is really nice. I don't know if you can make it out between the orange peel, but hey, I'm not perfect. We're able to cover the hood. Here's another look at that flake. Came out really good. Oh yeah, and the minute that we took down our paint booth, we dropped one of the pole jacks directly on the quarter. So we've got that, and we've got that. And another imperfection is right there. I put this hood on while this was still curing up, the clear coat. And we got a fingerprint that will forever adorn this vehicle. Hopefully not. I'm going to wet sand this to see if I can get it out. But yeah, we got some imperfections. Again, I'm not perfect. You may be looking at this car and thinking, why does it fit together like a bad Milton Bradley puzzle? It's not assembled yet. It's not all mounted up. I have some adjusting to do. I have some things to do with the hood and the trunk lid on the back just to get them mounted on the car. So I threw all this stuff together just so I could cap out this video and get it uploaded so I can show you guys what we got. But anyway, this thing, I was getting a lot of old Ford blue vibes from it when I first had it actually back in the garage there. The light inside the garage and the lack of light inside the garage actually didn't really do it justice, but now out in the afternoon sun, this looks really good. I'm really happy with it actually. So what's next? Well, as you saw, I got to mount these body panels, hood, trunk, fenders. I got to put all the door furniture on, reinstall the door panels and whatnot, and this thing needs to be cleaned from all the overspray because I suck. And it needs a good wet sand. So we got to wet sand it to get it to a nice mirror finish, which we probably won't get, but the best we can do. What I'm getting at here, guys, is it doesn't have to be perfect. You guys can do this in your driveway, just like I did. If I can do it, you guys can do it. You saw we set up a paint booth, and we had the weather fighting us, the fact that I have no idea what I'm doing. I went through 5 Harbor Freight paint guns, and that's again because I have no idea what I'm doing, but proves my point. You guys can do it too. So don't be afraid. Look what we got. Now, if you're at home and you're saying, well, you don't have much, you're right. But we have more than we had before, so it's better. And you know what? Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. I love this car, and it's gotten the paint job that it deserves. Probably not. It deserved a better paint job, but this is the one it got because this is what I could afford, just like a lot of you guys. So check in with us next time when we get some of this stuff mounted and we get it all squared up. I have some other little fun stuff that's got to go on this thing, and I have some other little things to change up about the car to get it all finished up. Hopefully you guys made it this far in the video. If you did, please subscribe to the channel. Get out in the garage, get out in the driveway, bring out the family from the house, make it a family affair, and work on your old hot rod. Have a good time with it. As always, thank you guys for watching. American Nostalgia Garage, out.